So good morning everyone and welcome to Stockholm. Aber in erster Linie herzlich willkommen.
A warm welcome to Stockholm.
Auch vielen Dank.
I would like to express my gratitude and thank for the German ratification of Sweden's NATO application. We're meeting in Stockholm in terrible times indeed, terrible times for Ukraine, but these times are also a big challenge for Europe. Still, it fills me with hope that Sweden, Germany and other European democracies work together and share this in unity.
Meet you, Olaf. When we meet here in Stockholm today, the war has raged in Ukraine for almost half a year. And Ukrainians have shown an impressive ability to stand up for and protect their country. But Putin gives us no reason to think his ambitions have changed. And these are dark times for Ukraine and for Europe. And in times like these, European cooperation and unity are our strongest assets. And in the work at the European level, our excellent bilateral relations with Germany are extremely highly valued. And Olaf, I knew that you and I could work well together, but I have to say that the unity that European countries have shown in response to the war has been impressive and it has been important. And we quickly took decisions on sanctions against Russia, unprecedented in size and scope, and both of our governments, along with many other European countries, have taken historic decisions to send military support to Ukraine and to strengthen our own defense. Russia cannot win this war. It is important for Ukraine and it is important for Europe. And for as long as the war continues, we must stand firm and united in our support of Ukraine. It is clear that we have entered a new and more uncertain geopolitical reality. We will not come back to where we were before the war. And in this context, Sweden and Finland decided to apply for membership in NATO. And Germany has been by our side throughout this process. First by expressing security assurances during the process, and then by being one of the first countries to ratify our and Finland's membership applications. And on behalf of my government and the Swedish people, I want to express my deepest gratitude for the strong support that we have received during this process from our German friends. Today, the Chancellor and I have also discussed the ramifications of the war on our own economies. And given current developments, I have to say it's not bad that there are two former ministers of finance as heads of government. Decreasing and more uncertain supply of food and energy has led to price increases all over Europe, and we haven't seen something like this for decades. And this also affects growth prospects in Europe, but also for the global economy. In Sweden, we are prepared for an economic slowdown and we expect tougher times to lie ahead. At the same time, households and businesses are feeling the pinch of higher inflation, higher interest rates and more uncertainty. Some are under strain, and economic policy needs to be mindful of how households and businesses are affected. But at the same time, we have to be careful then, also responsible in the long term, to have a long-term sustainable fiscal policy. Last but certainly not least, we discussed how sharply the security situation highlights the urgency of accelerating the green transition. Reducing our dependency on fossil energy is the only way forward for the climate, but also for our security. And that is also why, after this press conference, we are traveling to the south of Stockholm, Södertälje, to visit the world-leading vehicle manufacturer, Scania. And there we will see example both of green batteries and green trucks. In other words, concrete examples of how the green transition is happening here and now, but also how the green transition is creating jobs and hope for the future here in Sweden right now. Please, Olaf.
Dear Magdalena, you have visited Berlin on various occasions, and we've known each other for a long time, from the time when we cooperated as finance ministers. I'm delighted to be here in Stockholm in my capacity as federal chancellor. I'm impressed by your knowledge of German. I unfortunately don't speak as much Swedish. I can't compete with your language skills, but I am grateful for the good cooperation and the friendship that we share personally, but also the cooperation between our two countries. Germany and Sweden are close partners bilaterally in the European Union, but also on the international level. Today, it became clear just how close these relations are. They're going to become even closer once Sweden will have joined NATO. I'm firmly convinced of this. I don't have to reiterate this, but I want to stress it nonetheless. The application of Sweden and Finland to join NATO is a historical step indeed. And the signing of the NATO protocols, accession protocols in Madrid, was no less historical for the alliance and for Europe. The federal government welcomes the sovereign decision of Sweden to join NATO. We are gaining with Finland and Sweden two valued and esteemed allies, which will bolster our defense capabilities and our collective security. It's important. This is illustrated by the Russian aggression and war in Ukraine. I talked about a Zeitenwende, a watershed moment, the repercussions. We cannot be certain that things will not stay the way they used to. Russia is trying to delineate borders by the use of force, and we can prevent this by standing together and by being strong, and we do so within the European Union and within NATO. It also shows how important it is to reduce our dependency of fossil fuels. Well, not only do we need alternative fuel suppliers, but also need ambitious national and European climate protection policies. It has to be our ambition to accelerate the expansion and the use of renewable resources. It's not just a necessity in terms of protecting our climate, but it's also an imperative in terms of our security situation. The current situation makes a conversion, switching over to climate neutral economies, become more urgent in order to keep prices stable and make sure that we have sufficient supply. The Prime Minister and myself are in agreement how important it is to cooperate. Germany and Sweden cooperate closely in the field of research and development of battery cells, and it is an important issue. We're going to visit Scania, and we will learn more about this because this is part of the transformation process that we need for transport and mobility. We're also close partners in the European Union. I'm delighted that Sweden will take over the EU presidency at the beginning of next year, and let me assure you that we will lend all of our support that is possible and necessary. We will continue to promote climate goals within the Green Deal and Fit for 55 package. Thanks again for the invitation. I am happy about the good cooperation, and I am also pleased and looking forward to riding a truck soon.
From German media.
Michael Fischer,
Michael Fischer.
The accession, NATO accession process of Sweden and Finland. There has been a first extradition to Turkey last week. Do you think this step can speed up the ratification process in Turkey, and which further steps are you planning on to convince Turkey to ratify your and Finland's membership to NATO? Very soon. And Herr Bundeskanzler, an Sie auch eine Frage.
And Federal Chancellor, a question pertaining to NATO. Germany supported and quickly ratified the accession process of Sweden and Finland. There are still 7 countries who need to ratify. How can we speed up the process, and do you assume that there will be problems with regard to Turkey that could delay this process?
We agreed on a memorandum of understanding between Sweden, Turkey, and Finland, or Sweden, Finland, and Turkey. And of course, from a Swedish government perspective, we will live according to the memorandum of understanding that we agreed upon. And the cases of extraditions that are being processed in Sweden will, of course, be processed according to Swedish and international law. That is also something that we agreed upon in this memorandum of understanding. And the case last week was according to Swedish and international law. And we will continue to work in that way.
Ich bin sehr zuversichtlich, dass
I'm confident that the states which have not ratified that will do so, and Turkey as well. I believe that the agreement that Finland and Sweden engaged in with Turkey show that they have embarked on a good path. They're just in line with a practice that our country has pursued for a long time, so it fits into our common activities. So I'm rather confident that the process will be speedy. I don't want to set a date for that, but I believe that I think everyone is making an effort to come to a conclusion. We're very much looking forward to Sweden and Finland within NATO, and we need them as partners.
Sie beiden, für meine Kollegen auch so verstanden. Many countries in Europe are now saving on gas and energy, also in solidarity with Germany, who has a crisis here. Do you think that also Sweden should consider cutting down on energy use in solidarity with Germany to be able to help you with your lacks? Fru statsminister, same question to you. Do you think that Sweden should consider cutting down on energy use and save energy to show solidarity to the continent?
My view is that we should save energy and that we should save gas. This is something that we all together are doing now, and which is absolutely necessary for having a safe winter. Our economies are intertwined. We are working together intensely, and we are growing together. And so it is absolutely necessary that we cooperate. We do this also for many other countries. As you know, though we are reducing the use of gas and preparing for the winter, though we are putting a lot of gas into our storage capacities, we are now also using gas for producing electricity that is desperately needed in some of our neighbor countries in the south, for instance. And this shows that we all are working together and that we can rely on each other. This will be also the case with gas later. If there is a need, a shortage in one of the countries, I think all are looking at their capacities. Germany will also do it, though we have our necessities. But you should be absolutely sure that we started early in preparing for that situation. So when I became the Chancellor, I decided to understand what will happen if we will have a reduced supply of gas. And this is why we decided to build in a very rapid way new pipelines and terminals at the northern shores of Germany, in Wilhelmshaven, in Stade, in Brunsbüttel, in Lubmin, which gives us the opportunity to buy LNG and import it not just from the structures we already have in the ports of the Netherlands, Belgium and France, but also from our own ports. And this will be also useful for many of our neighbors in Czechia, for instance, and Slovakia, because they have no shores, and then they are willing to become independent of the supply of gas from Russia. It is necessary that they have a way to get the gas from the grid that is going to Germany and using the shores also that we are having. And I think this is the way to handle that situation. I'm understanding, as all people do, that this will be a very difficult time, but I'm also understanding that we will manage it.
Just like Olaf said, I mean, we are in very difficult times, and electricity bills is something that not only Sweden but European households, not only Swedish but European households, is something they are worrying about here and now, but especially worrying further down the autumn when it comes to winter, and for good reasons. I think, of course, we should save energy, but for our own sake as well. It's a way to cut electricity bill, but it's also a way to reduce electricity prices. So there are reasons for us to save energy, both for ourselves and for the electricity price. The connection we do have with Germany is, we were checking this morning, I mean, that cable is already full. So us saving energy today would not help Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Ja, Stefan Lange,
ourselves.
Augsburger. Sorry. Stefan Lange, Augsburger Allgemein.
Stefan Lange, Augsburger Allgemein. I have a question directed to both of you. In Sweden and Germany, there's a debate on the continuation of nuclear power. What's your stance on this? And how important is nuclear power for energy security in all of Europe? And allow me to ask a question regarding Ukraine. You mentioned it. Mr. Zelensky reiterated that he wants to win back Crimea. Could Ukraine use the weapons that Germany and Sweden have delivered to Ukraine for that purpose? As far as the use of nuclear energy is concerned, there are different ways and paths that are embarked upon in Europe. And this is what we agreed upon. Every country will have to take its own decision and look into how to become carbon neutral by the mid-century. It's a big industrial project of modernization. That means that we need to expand our capacities for electricity generation, power generation, and Germany will expand the use of renewable energies massively. We have brought about the necessary legislation in order to do that and accelerated things so that we can speed up and be quicker as planned. And we're doing so in full force. And I'm sure that we are going to be able to reduce the dependency on fossil fuels and switch over to renewable energies. And I think we will be able to generate more, produce hydrogen and import hydrogen in order to build the economy of the future. In other countries, nuclear power plays an important role. We're talking here about national decisions, and we don't want to assess or comment on these decisions. Regarding Ukraine, we support Ukraine with the weapons that we supply to Ukraine, and it serves to defend the sovereignty and integrity of its own territory.
Different European countries have chosen different paths when it comes to nuclear power, and we do respect that this is a national decision or domestic decision. In Sweden, we do have nuclear power. It will be part of our energy mix for a long time, and in Sweden it is allowed to build new nuclear powers. So far, we don't have any applications for building new nuclear power plants in Sweden. The government has also invited the opposition to have new round of talks on the future of the energy and energy mix in energy production in Sweden. We will see if this is something that could become reality after elections. On Ukraine, I mean, this is a historic decision that both Germany and Sweden have taken to send weapons to Ukraine, and just like Olaf said, this is for them to protect their territorial integrity and use their weapons in that respect. Thank you.
TV4.
My name is Ritva Ramberg. I work for Swedish television TV4. I have two questions, and I will start with the guest, Herr Bundeskanzler. Is the visit here to Sweden in any way connected to the election campaign that your colleague, Prime Minister, is running? And to the Prime Minister, if possible, also an answer in Swedish. What is your reaction to the Center Party saying that they would like to participate in a government run by you?
This visit is linked to the deep friendship between the two of us and the deep friendship between our two countries. And right from the beginning of my chancellery, I decided that I very early will have a visit here. And Magdalena already visited me here in Berlin as the chancellor. And we had a lot of meetings before when the two of us were finance ministers. So this is a good relationship personally and between the countries.
I will now speak in Swedish.
Yes.
Yeah. Jag tycker att det är bra. Sveriges och svensk politik behöver färre låsningar och inte fler. Och det som Annie Lööf gjorde igår var ju att skapa öppningar. Och det tycker jag är bra. Och vi kommer efter valet. Stor sannolikhet att det kommer vara en komplicerad parlamentarisk situation. Och alla politiker som bidrar till att skapa öppningar snarare än låsningar, det välkomnar jag.
Thank you very much. We'll see you at Scania.
Ja.